So my name is Benson Salo. I'm connected to the Wemba Wemba, Jadowa Jali, Wiradjuri and Gunditjmara nations of Western Victoria, and then also New Ireland province of Papua New Guinea from my father. I'm currently the managing partner for First Australians Capital, which is an Indigenous-led fund manager and business advisory organisation. So First Australians Capital exists to address this pervasive issue around access to capital for Indigenous businesses. So we know that there's a growing ecosystem of great Indigenous businesses that are just challenged in regards to accessing capital from mainstream banks and financiers. So there's a really clear need for working capital, secured and unsecured capital, as well as patient capital with the support services around them that enable them to grow. And we do this through raising capital, and so we have a fund at the moment that we've been building over the last few years, which is really around facilitating private investors and philanthropic funds into Indigenous businesses.
What are the opportunities for Indigenous businesses and the Indigenous startup ecosystem, and how does capital play into that? How does that help them scale?
So the Indigenous business sector is growing tenfold, and we've seen that since 2016 when the Indigenous procurement policy was first implemented to where it is today. And we see about 15 to 17,000 Indigenous businesses. But one of the big challenges, as I've mentioned, is around that access to capital, but it's not in isolation. So the challenge around access to capital is actually a generational impact of not being able to own assets, not being able to build wealth, and our communities not having wealth within themselves, or being able to access financial instruments and products and services. So what we're seeing is a generational impact that has led to where we are today, where businesses don't have assets within themselves to be able to go and leverage when they are trying to seek and access capital. And so one of the areas that we know that we can actually play a really critical role in is to take that patient view and understand the context that a lot of our entrepreneurs are coming from, and realizing that we need to support with capacity and capability, so that kind of the non-financial support, but then also the financial support in the form of grants or soft loans or patient capital, which is structured over a long term. The approach that we've taken in regards to the type of capital is in 2016 we tested a concept fund of about $14 million, and that was both debt and equity and kind of mixed finance options there. And the learnings out of that is with debt, it enables businesses to better plan, to better forecast and build their business around their commitments, their financial commitments. It also brings investors to the table because they also have a better sense of where the business is at in regards to their sustainability and their ability to service debt. And so in the next few months, we're looking to raise a fund of $30 million, which is a combination of patient capital, institutional capital, but then also the supports that wrap around the Indigenous business and entrepreneur. Our Catalytic Impact Fund, the $30 million fund, that is generally sector agnostic. We have some specific areas that we're seeing a concentration of Indigenous businesses, but we really look at the Indigenous business themselves. What are their needs? What are their capital requirements? But then we also take the view of where is Indigenous culture and knowledge and impact that point of difference within the sector that they're operating. A good example is within the agribusiness space, where native foods and botanicals is a really great point of difference that has direct Indigenous knowledge and input. It's cultural, and it also has the potential to really redefine how we access markets globally as well. One of the sectors that has a high concentration of Indigenous businesses is the mining and construction industry. And over the next few years, as we're looking to transition away from fossil fuels and then thinking about that energy transition, we're really looking to identify businesses that are also part of that transition, but not excluding them from our approach. So the services that they provide, from workforce to machinery, all the way through to mine sites support, we're really interested in engaging those businesses that complement where the existing industry is, but then also have the ability to transition as that whole sector and that whole industry transitions.
With First Nations Capital, You look for strong businesses, excellent founders who are driven, motivated, solving a big challenge through innovation. What else is important to you in that First Nations startup ecosystem?
So since 2016, First Australians Capital have worked with over 800 businesses. Of those 800, about 32 to 37% have been female-led, Indigenous female-led enterprises, which is a fantastic stat. We're always trying to build that and really invest into female founders. We also know that from an employment standpoint, there's many statistics out there that state that Indigenous businesses are 100% more likely to employ Indigenous people. They're also more likely to reinvest back into community. And so if you think about that as an impact thesis, then that by scaling Indigenous businesses, we're also creating employment opportunities, we're also creating greater investment or self-sustaining investment back into communities. And so the underpinning principle here is around economic self-determination. We don't dictate to businesses as to what impact you need to have. We believe that as an Indigenous business, purely sustaining and operating in the sectors that you are having an impact. You're bringing culture, a way of thinking into the sectors that you're operating in, and also the customers and clients that you're engaging with. So I think there's a great opportunity for us to redefine the way that impact has been forced upon Indigenous businesses and enterprises, where it is just purely dictating that you need to deliver employment outcomes. And if you were to take technology or tech companies, for instance, we know that these are quite slim. And so passing on employment outcomes or defining impact as employment outcomes for a tech company, if you were to weigh that up against, say, a mining services company, they're very different in regards to impact. But we believe that the actual impact in itself is it's not about the scale, it's about the ability to actually deliver real outcomes. So I'm a strong believer in the importance of building an ecosystem, but the way that I like to think about ecosystems, particularly when it comes to people, is that we're actually creating community assets. So they're able to test, try and learn as an entrepreneur, but they can take whatever knowledge and skills that they develop and apply them in all different areas. And I think what we've traditionally kind of called soft skills, or those transferable skills, these are the new hard skills in regards to being able to affect change, be able to bring cultural knowledge and culture into workplaces, but then be able to provide a different perspective in which we can actually commercialize and we can actually just drive change through business. And so by creating greater numbers of community assets or people that have had experiences like this, we're actually in fact being able to affect greater change right across ecosystems. We can never underestimate the importance of role models, and I think we often see entrepreneurs kind of squirreling away and operating sometimes in isolation. And so one, ecosystems are really incredible for that, but two, we need to actually showcase and we need to tell the story of impact and leadership. And Australia, we often have this notion of the tall poppy syndrome or the crabs in the bucket. And what I'm really pleased to see over the last few years is that we've actually, within the business sector, that kind of practice has really stopped. We're actually lifting up each other and we're really showcasing where we're seeing great work. And I think that's the way that we really need to grow the broader sector. And it's that old adage, you can't be what you can't see. And we've got amazing entrepreneurs that are out there driving wonderful, sustainable businesses. And the more that we talk about them, the more that they showcase, the greater the impact they're going to have.
Empowering First Nations businesses is what First Nations X was developed for. What would you like to see the industry look like? What's your vision?
So in the next 10 years, we would love to see a thriving Indigenous business ecosystem that doesn't have those age-old challenges of accessing capital. That we have businesses that are scaled, that we have sustainability within the sector, that we have young entrepreneurs that are coming through, taking their idea from a napkin all the way through to scaling it. And my ultimate dream would actually to see an Indigenous-led and owned business listed on the ASX. I think that would be an absolute game changer, and it'll really signify that we're here and we're serious.
Are there particular types of problems or markets or even innovation technologies that are important to you, or do you see really high potential for?
So we're always looking to meet with new businesses that are in their startup or scale-up phase. So I think there's some value in just having a conversation with our team, and you can find us at firstaustralianscapital.org. And you can drop our team a line and we'll be in touch and we can talk more around where your business is at, but also what you're passionate about, what drives you, And then also, what are you looking for in regards to your being able to scale? So is it financial? Is it non-financial? We're here to support you on that journey.
If you were speaking to a first-time founder, a young person or an older person, but they're just starting their first business, what's the advice that you would give them?
So my advice to any entrepreneur that's seeking to start out is to ask yourself 3 questions. Why me? Why now? And for what reason? And by answering these 3 things, it's really to draw on your background, your experience, like what's your upbringing, what influences to your value system to be where you are today? What are you looking to bring out into the market? What's your point of difference? And then why now, which is timing is everything. And why is it important for the world to see what you've got? And I think if you answer those 3 things, it really enables you to think deeply when things get hard, as they often do as an entrepreneur, but it allows you to kind of pull yourself through because it touches on your passion, it brings something very unique to the market, and it also brings people around you.
I've been talking today with Benson Saulo on behalf of First Nations X. Benson is the Managing Director and co-founder of First Australians Capital. He's also former Consul General for Austrade and has a real passion for building pathways for the growth of other Australians.